5 o'clock Sweats podcast, the podcast where we like to talk about the things we like to do when we're off the clock, not working. Tonight, I'm Ryan, joined by my handsome buddies, both of my handsome buddies.
What's up? I'm Derek.
Yeah, I think he's stimming over there. This is Chris, you know.
And I actually think Derek was flapping his wings and a little foreshadowing because we're talking about the Birds, the Philadelphia Eagles, our favorite football team. It's been a while since we've talked Birds. We talked shop about our beloved football team, and a lot has happened. It's been a weird season, but it's been an amazing season as of recording. The team is currently on a 10-game winning streak.
Yowza.
That is the most consecutive wins in franchise history. No Eagles team has ever had 10 consecutive wins before. That's quite the feat. And just in the NFL, a 10-game winning streak in the NFL is absurd. That shouldn't happen. But yeah, we are dealing with quite the powerhouse right now, if you ask me.
Oh, interesting. So the last time we talked about the Eagles was episode 59 from early September, and it was the Eagles season preview.
Yeah.
Now we're here.
And now we are here. The Eagles sit at 12-2. I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm still like, this all feels a little surreal to me because I'm still like thinking back to early in the season. I'm still getting flashbacks to Saquon dropping that pass against the Falcons, and they lose that game, a game they should have won. They should be 13-1 right now. They really should be. Thinking about them getting blown out by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. That was a disaster. But ever since that game, they've won. They haven't lost. They haven't lost. Did not foresee this happening. Sirianni was on the hot seat. His seat was burning hot. There was a fire under his ass. And credit to him. He shaved his head and he turned this team around. And he's got a big hand in this turnaround. How are y'all feeling about this team? Because I'm still like, again, it's kind of surreal to me that we're sitting here at 12-2 with 10 straight wins.
I can't shake that feeling from, what you said in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
What do we start off? 2-2? Is that right?
2-2.
Mm-hmm.
And back then I was feeling all right about Philly sports in general, with the gigantic fucking asterisk that any Philly sport can hurt me on any given day.
Yeah.
And I think that experience doesn't allow me to go 100% on the Eagles right now, because I always feel like I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm waiting for another shoe to drop.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last 10 games, really, it hasn't. But my brain is trained to just keep on waiting,
Yeah. 'Tis the life of a Philadelphia sports fan. You were talking about Philadelphia sports teams in general. When they lost to the Bucks, what was that? That was September, like the end of September 29th. The Phillies were going into the playoffs riding high, and then you see what happened there. They got their hearts ripped out by the fucking Mets of all teams. I had to watch, what was it, game one? I had to watch game one. Mets win. Zach Wheeler pitches a gem, and the Mets find a way to still win that game with Chris, who is a Mets fan. And that was pretty unenjoyable, if I'm being honest. The saving grace was that we were at our LAN party playing Halo, and that was the only thing keeping me sane that night. And then as of yesterday, the Sixers have had a disastrous season, Derek, as you're well aware. Lots of possible promise going into this season, and it's just been an absolute dumpster fire.
It makes me so sad.
Yeah,
because I love that team so much.
Yeah,
and it's difficult to do that now.
Yeah, there's really just nothing to root for now besides Maxey, I guess. Embiid's face is broken yet again. I cannot believe that we're here yet again. I feel awful for him. That's just, what are the chances? And
yeah, well, his face is like 7 feet off the ground, so he's not used to environmental damage hitting him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fragile Cameroonian.
it's one of the rarest injuries in sports. It's just this is his third time suffering that injury. It's just awful. And Jared McCain is a torn meniscus, I think, right? So I mean, he was the other reason to watch every night. Now you just have Tyrese Maxey, which, we love Tyrese Maxey, but this team ain't going anywhere with just Tyrese. No, this team's not going anywhere unless Embiid can get healthy. So thank God
operative word there is team. Right? Yeah. It can't be just Tyrese Maxey. You need other people. But anyway.
They supposedly have Paul George, so I hear. But anyway, we're not talking Sixers, we're not talking Phils, we're talking the Birds, we're talking the Eagles, arguably the best team in the NFL right now. I'm just so happy that they're having the success they're having because, again, we've had our hearts ripped up. Chris, I mean, Mets fan, so your team had your magical run. It came up short, but still, like, whatever. Congrats to you guys for getting as far as you did, and you got Juan Soto, so you're actually flying pretty high right now. You got Juan Soto, your football team's 12-2. I mean, how are you feeling right now?
Well, it feels great. While the Eagles were disappointing me early in the season, the Mets were rejuvenating me at the end of the season. It was very strange to be caring about baseball during football season because that doesn't happen for a Mets fan. But in terms of the Birds, so here's something I just want to throw out there, right? You're talking about the Sixers, you're talking about the Phillies. Perhaps the Eagles,
careful,
are one of the best coached teams in the city, but in the league. And I'm going to throw out a stat here.
Interesting.
And I want anybody listening or watching to understand that I have been the biggest, for the longest, Nick Sirianni hater there is, and probably ever will be. But I will admit when I'm kind of just being a hater, and I think this is an interesting case because you look at the team, obviously, 10 wins that's not a fluke. That's not a coincidence. That's not one player. That's all things working, or at least, certain parts of the team making up for shortcomings of other parts on different weeks, right? Everybody's kind of just picking each other up. We had this whole bullshit thing this last week with Jalen and AJ, right? This whole narrative that they were tired of talking about the win streak, so they had to draw up, BG made some stupid comments, but they had to draw up this narrative like Jalen and AJ were boys, and then now they're not boys, which, quite frankly, I don't give a shit who's friends, who's not. I only care about what happens on the field. They said that we couldn't pass, right? So I'm going to say this. I think somehow, as much as I feel like Nick Sirianni is an idiot, and I constantly question what his job and his role is, I think he brought the team kind of together this week, or at least motivated people in a certain way, or I don't know. But obviously this past week against Pittsburgh, we proved we didn't have to run the ball. We could just pass the ball. But here's what I wanted to say, though. In terms of Nick Sirianni possibly being the best coach in the NFL.
I can't believe you're saying this. I can't believe those words come out of your mouth.
What a pendulum swing from the last episode.
Let me just say this. Nick Sirianni's regular season record as the Eagles head coach is 46-19. That is an over 700 win percentage.
Yeah, the guy wins. Say what you say about him. I mean, obviously last year happened. We can't shake that. I mean, they absolutely crumbled after 10-1, and this past week was a little scary because we had some shades of last year with the whole Jalen AJ drama. Like, are they friends? Like, they hate each other. What's happening? The team's gonna fall apart. And then they come out and make a huge statement yesterday with a dominant win. That honestly, the score was not an indication of how dominant the Eagles were that game. Like, it was a 2-score game, and they were more dominant than that. But definitely Sirianni has played a huge role in galvanizing this team. I mean, I think JJ said that there were some tough conversations had over the week with the fallout of the BG comments and then the AJ post-game presser last week. Definitely some tough conversations. And, Sirianni's role right now is CEO, CVO, the Chiefs Vibes officer of the Vibes officer of the team, and I mean the guy wins, and I think the players genuinely do like playing for him. Him being a former not NFL player but being a former football player definitely helps. He's been in the league for a while as a coach, as an assistant coach, so I mean he knows how to deal with these men, and I mean, he's just done a great job. I mean, we don't know exactly what's happening behind closed doors, but when you see like the peeks we get behind the curtain, like when the social media team puts out like his post game locker room speeches, or like when they're going over film and then he's talking at the podium and to the guys, like you can just tell like he has a command of that room, and the guys respect him. And you know, I've always been more of a Sirianni supporter than a hater. I know you've been mostly a hater, so hearing your opinion kind of change just a few minutes ago is jarring to say the least. But you know,
I'm speaking strictly like not from the heart. I'm just speaking objectively, right? Like you look at the numbers, you look at the record, you look at the wins, you look at the win streak, you look at the overall body of work since he's been head coach. You know, I mean, he's if you look at his rankings of other head coaches, he's like, you know, he's not far off from like Lombardi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's up there with some really great coaches in terms of win percentage.
Yeah.
Now, that you know, there's more to a head coach than, you know, win percentage. I do think he probably ranks like up there in terms of like coaches that somehow can get in their team's way during the course of a game. He tends to do that quite a bit. But I think in the last 2 months, I think maybe he's kind of learned to get out of his own way. And you know, I'm hoping, you know, kind of let his team, let his coaches do, you know, what they do best. But listen, I don't think I would like the guy if I met him.
He seems
but
fine.
It's hard to argue. It's hard to argue. And we'll see. I mean, you know, obviously my tone might change, you know, week 1 of the playoffs if we lose.
Yeah, no, let's not say that.
But I'm just saying though, you know, Eagles fans, we're all kind of the same where, you know, we're riding the high right now. So there's praise to be given, but at the first sign of danger, I'm turning my back on him.
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, listen, the guy, I mean, going back to last year, that awful heart, like soul crushing collapse of last year completely made, I think, all of us kind of apathetic towards the Eagles for a while. And then the way the season started with that really electric, exciting win over the Packers, and then you had that crushing defeat of the Falcons where you should have won, but Saquon dropped that ball, and there was a lot of debate on whether or not they should have passed there or ran the ball, but you know, whatever. And then the season was teetering at that point. I mean, it was only game 3, but I mean, they were very close to losing to the Saints in New Orleans, and they got very fortunate with a huge Dallas Goedert play. And they escaped that game with a win, which kind of, I think at that point kind of saved the season. Now it's funny because the next game they get blown out by the Buccaneers and it's over in the first quarter. And that was just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
At that point, and considering the collapse of last year, I mean, the fact that this team is where it's at now, I give basically most of the credit to Sirianni. I mean, the players obviously have played really well. The assistant coach.
By the way, that is the point I am still at in my brain. I cannot advance further than that Buccaneers game.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And then, you know, the assistant coaches they've brought in have been amazing. Like Vic Fangio is an absolute genius on defense with these guys. And, you know, Kellen Moore, I mean, maybe some early season struggles adjusting with the new players and everything, but I mean, and I know there's been a lot of debate on the passing game, but I mean he's calling plays that work, and you know the run game is working and has been working, and that's why they're leaning on it so much. And then you know this past week, you know against the Steelers, who have the top ranked rush defense in the NFL, or one of the top ranked rush defenses in the NFL, you know they obviously struggled against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the run game. Saquon only got 65 yards, I think. He didn't crack 70, which is has been unheard of this season, but they had to throw the ball. They had a game plan to throw the ball against a weaker secondary of the Steelers, and they did that, and they executed it perfectly. And
yeah, both Devontae and AJ had over 100 yards receiving. Each had a touchdown. You know, the only thing that was a little scary was the the I don't want to say the turnovers came back, but there were the two fumbles there. That gives you a little bit of like kind of like a feeling of last year or at least the beginning of this season. But I think that's the biggest theme is in our 10 game win streak, we've really changed the turnover differential, and we've just not been turning the ball over. Knock on wood, that continues. But I mean, that it just goes to prove how crucial it is. Whether or not you win or lose because of the turnovers, it at the very least makes the game much closer than it needs to be. And that's been plaguing the Eagles for a while, is we've had to sit there to the final whistle of every week of every game, because no matter how far ahead we are, you can never feel comfortable. That's kind of been, we always text that. Ryan and I are like, oh, here we go again, right?
Yep, here we go. I mean,
it's going to be another grind.
I mean, you said, I think after the game was over, you were like, I'm still pissed that Jalen fumbled that one ball. I'm like, well, it happens. I mean, he has been great at not turning the ball over through the air on the ground. And, he had that unfortunate fumble, and then Cooper DeJean had that really bad fumble on the punt return. But the Steelers also boast like a very prolific turnover defense. Like they have one of the, I think they have the best turnover differential on defense in the NFL. So those guys are taught to tackle in ways that dislodge the ball. I mean, you saw on the Cooper DeJean play, like the guy's helmet was on the ball. Like that's the form, that's the technique they use to tackle.
Jalen was TJ Watt, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Jalen was TJ Watt, and
punched it out.
He punched it out like perfect form. Like that's what he does. He's a Hall of Fame caliber player. I mean, you got to give hats off to him in that situation. So I'm not too worried about the turnovers in this game. I just think they're playing a really physical defense. That's their goal, is to punch the ball, get the ball out of the offense's hands.
So what do you think has changed, right, in terms of minimizing or decreasing the turnovers? What's different? Because there's some things I noticed that are different that I think have helped in that category.
Well,
maybe hurt in other ways. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious is the run game. I mean, Saquon hasn't fumbled.
Say that.
Saquon hasn't fumbled, and when you're not throwing the ball, you're giving yourself less chances to throw interceptions. And yeah, I mean, the run game is working, which has been open up the play action, and guys are more open when you do throw the ball. So I think that's been a huge part of it. And also, I think just Jalen has been very smart with the football and not throwing into, like, I think back to the Packers game, first game of the season, where he threw into double coverage to Devontae. They were like backed up on their own one. He just threw.
Yeah, it was literally like the first or second play of the game, or of their drive, should I say?
Yeah, and so I just think Jalen's been great and really smart at not throwing into like double coverage, triple coverage. Being smarter with the ball. Last week was weird last week against the Panthers, because there were a lot of plays where it looked like guys were open and he wasn't pulling the trigger. That was a little strange. We haven't seen a lot of that from him this year. We did not see that from him yesterday against the Steelers. He was decisive.
Just a little bit. That's actually what I would comment on, though, is part of me thinks that in an effort to reduce the turnovers, that Jalen, whether it's been coached in him or he's just, this is just kind of like in his mind, you can see he holds the ball. When the offense is not playing well, he's holding the ball too long.
That's true.
And he's missing open receivers. And it does feel like he is a little, I don't know. I think sometimes he's afraid to just let it go, which can be a good and bad thing, right? Like we've seen plenty of amazing throws from Jalen over the years, especially some deep balls, right? People criticize his deep ball, but I think he actually throws a pretty good deep ball when, he's in rhythm. And I just feel like they haven't done that as much. And the other thing that I'm noticing is they're, with the success of the run, obviously they're leaning on that, but they're not running a lot of play action. A lot of deep throws. And, I think as we get towards the end, into the playoffs, end of the season, I really do think we're going to have to start to open that up a little bit more, because there's just times, we have great possessions, right? Drives that are sustained for 12 minutes.
I mean, yesterday,
right?
that drive that closed out the game was incredible. One of the best drives I've ever seen.
So there's obviously situations to do that, but I just still, and I've always been a proponent of this. This team has a great ability to throw the deep ball, and with the fact that Saquon is so dominant running, I just can't understand why we don't have more play action other than them just maybe a little bit afraid to, send one down the field and turn it over. And again, I don't know if that's Jalen or if that's just the coaching, the scheme, but it's just something I've noticed. And if you go back to the Super Bowl year, not, 2023. Yeah, 22, 23. We were hitting a lot of deep balls, and we could drop a touchdown on you in like 2 plays. And I just think we need to gain some of that ability back with the success that Saquon's been having.
Yeah.
Right. I think that it's also a little bit of, I don't want to say overcorrection, but overcorrection from all the times that I feel like Jalen felt like he had to play hero ball.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's overcorrected and kind of backed that off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like he's kind of able to do that more confidently, like back off more confidently because he believes in the guys behind him. Right.
Sure. And also not only does he believe in them, but we actually have like legitimately probably one of the best rosters, offensively speaking, in the NFL. Years past, right? We had Devontae, we had AJ, we had Goddard, whatever. But the last few years we were relying on Miles and Gainwell. And nothing against Miles or DeAndre Swift, right? But they're not Saquon Barkley.
Right.
Nobody is. So I'm just, that's just something I'd like to see. I'm curious. Maybe that's the playbook opens up a little bit more. And that's why I think there's weeks where I feel like we should be dropping like 35, 40 points on a team, and we just kind of don't, because we're playing very smart, but there's definitely not a lot of I feel like some of the swag factors down a little bit.
Well, I don't. Well, maybe on offense.
Just those big plays. Like like Jalen's not hitting the gritty in the end zone. You know what I mean? Like I just need a little bit more. No, I'm serious. Like I need just a little bit more mojo. That's all I'm asking. Like, and if it leads to a couple more mistakes, I get it. But there's another notch here that I know they can get to.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't think that we've been playing down to any of the team's levels, right? But I certainly don't think we've been playing up to our own level.
Exactly.
I think we're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I don't think we've reached final form, and I don't know if that's deliberate, but I know there's more. I know there's more, and I'd like to see it. But again, maybe this isn't, this at this point in the season, maybe that's not where you show these things. Yeah. And I'm okay with that, but I just want to know that they know that I know.
That you're onto something. Yeah. I trust the I trust the coaching. I trust Kellen Moore drawing up an effective game plan against the defense that particular week. If, for example, the Steelers really good against the run, not so good against the pass, and look what happened.
That kind of was like a perfect thing too, like with the week leading up to it being all about the pass game. It was almost like meant to be.
Yeah, it was really the perfect matchup, honestly, because people think of the Steelers defense like, oh, they're vaunted, like they're great, and they are great, but against the pass, not so much. So, I mean, when you're going against AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, it wasn't a great matchup. But yeah, I do think this team is just week by week drawing up a game plan that is best suited to beat that particular team that particular week. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens that a lot of these teams they've been playing, the Ravens aside, Ravens have one of the best run defenses in the NFL, and the Eagles ran pretty effectively against them. But, I mean, a lot of these defenses they're playing don't have great run defenses. So why wouldn't you be leaning on your guy that's on pace to rush for 2,000 yards this year?
No, I'm 100% with that. But I think it's like, it's like a lot of other things. I think if you just show, that there's another gear, that there's another side to it just makes the team that much harder to defend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When Saquon's got 120 yards and he's rushing for 6 a clip, what's the third down play action deep shot?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you got the guys for it, AJ and Devontae.
Yeah, I wonder if they view the RPO as a play action, because it kind of is. You're kind of
it is, but it doesn't give enough time for the routes to get as deep as like a play action would. You know what I mean? Like it is. I see what you're saying. It is like could go one way or the other. But the play action specifically, and when you have a great offensive line, you should feel comfortable with that. And I don't know. I think Jalen needs to kind of get that confidence a little bit, just to like stand in the pocket and just fucking send one.
Yeah, I feel like the Lions are the perfect like team to emulate in regards to that, which is ironic because we're on a collision course to see them in the NFC Championship game. Knock on wood. But their team is literally what our offense is and could be. Great running team, but they do a ton of play action. Like that is their bread and butter, is the play action pass and do like a crossing route to like St. Brown or Laporta. Yeah. So I do see the frustration. I get it. I would love to see more just straight up play action with Jalen under center, faking to Barkley, and then like hitting a deep post to Devontae or something.
Exactly.
That'd be sick. But I think that's a possibility that we see that in the playoffs. I don't know if they've opened up the whole playbook yet. I'm getting shades of like, remember how bad the Eagles offense looked going into the playoffs in 2017?
Yeah.
Like Nick Foles looked like that last game one of the last games against the Raiders. He looked awful. That last game against the Cowboys, they literally played him to get a tune-up. He looked awful. But come like second half of that Falcons game, that's when things started to click. And then obviously the Vikings game and the Patriots game, things just like were outstanding. Like just the offense.
I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't put it past them. It's like almost so obvious of like a missing piece that it's like they have to know. But I mean, maybe they're just trying to, solidify their identity as a run first team, which again, I think is fine. But I know, like I said, that they're more than capable of doing that. And I think when a defense knows that you can possess the ball for 12 minutes, or you can literally in 45 seconds drop a touchdown on their head, right? That's a lot to, not to mention Jalen's ability to run.
Yeah.
Right? That's a lot to fucking account for.
It's a lot.
A lot.
I think teams watching the game yesterday were reminded, like, oh yeah, this team can be dynamic through the air, really dynamic.
I love there was one run with Jalen up the gut. I mean, the seas fucking parted, but
yeah,
dude, yep. I just love when he has that decisiveness and it's just instant. But I can't stand this shit I've seen this year where he's taking these 2-3 yard losses. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah. There's got to
be a check down somewhere. There's got to be somebody in the flat. Like, I don't know. He's still doing that, and I don't know what that is.
Or just throw the ball away. There have been a couple plays this year where he's held the ball too long, and I'm screaming like, just get rid of the ball, just like throw it out of bounds or something. Which I do think there have been more checkdowns this year. I do feel like he is taking what the defense is giving him more often than not. Mm-hmm. Especially the last few weeks during this win streak.
Do you think they could get Saquon a little more involved in the past game?
For sure.
In terms of checkdowns and such?
For sure. I still feel like he hasn't been completely utilized, like fully utilized as a receiving option yet. I mean, he's had a couple of touchdowns. He's had a couple of like nice wheel routes. I still want them to get the screen game going. They haven't done a lot of screens with him. I know they tried. There was one they tried against the Panthers or against the Ravens or one of those teams. They had a screen that they tried, but it just didn't work. I think the pass rusher got in his face and he couldn't get the ball off in time. But I just want more like design screens like that, because Saquon is literally the perfect back to just catch a ball and just like.
Here's the thing, though.
Go the distance.
They'll fucking run a screen with Devontae as the blocker.
Well, yeah, but we haven't really seen a lot of that this year. I feel like we
have seen it a few times, and fuck, dude.
Well, credit to Devontae. I mean, I know it's not ideal, but he does max effort. Like, he gets all of what.
Sure, but I mean, I'd rather AJ Brown be standing in front of the other guy.
Well, yeah, me too. I get
that. I think we could use tight ends a little bit more. I know Goddard's been banged up a lot this year, so that's been a little iffy, but I still think we can. Yeah, I think we can incorporate that. I think, we need to turn AJ Brown into Michael Thomas. and just fucking slant
machine.
all goddamn game, because that is a cheat code with how big he is.
Yeah.
And he gets that inside leverage, and dude.
He's so open too when he gets those slants. Like he just out physicals the corner or whoever's on him, and there's always like a nice bit of separation between him and the defender. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I want. Is like when you gotta have it, like that's the kind of play you gotta call. But I think you gotta draw that up more. I know we play for the tush push. I think if we go back to our original episode, like our preseason, like predictions and everything, I think I was kind of bashing the tush push a little bit, and it's been used exactly as much as I thought it would be. And
yeah,
listen, I'm an Eagles fan. I love it, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. It's like
it just
we have so much talent.
Like
do we really
in the
need
spirit of the game, right?
Yeah.
For
Do we need
reason.
to fucking crush our entire team in a pile of bodies to get 3 feet when we have Saquon, AJ, Devontae, Jalen? I just, I won't be surprised if in the playoffs they do something. They've some kind of not quite like the Philly special vibe, but something where there is like a gimmicky tush push.
Well, they flashed.
formation.
They flashed some
But
like,
something even
alternatives.
crazy.
Some variants, yeah.
Yeah,
against
like
the
I don't even know,
Saints.
like Jake Elliott somehow out there.
That'd be so fucking funny. He catches the touchdown pass.
I don't know what he does, but I'm just saying, like they've got to be, because when you do something so much and it's so successful, there's got to be so many wrinkles you could put in that thing, and that would absolutely fucking put people on their ass.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have like some wrinkles. Again, they flashed a couple of times where like Jalen will like pitch the ball out, or like he'll run outside and try to get to the outside instead of just go straight forward. Listen, the tush push works. I mean, there was a couple of games this year where it was struggling a little bit, especially early on in the season, where it looked like maybe teams were figuring it out. But during this win streak, it's been back on the money, like back where it was before. It's just like automatic, basically, from like 2 yards or closer. Like yeah. I mean, I've embraced the tush push. I think it's part of the Eagles' identity, and I love it. And I think it's a physical play, and I think the Eagles are a physical team, and I just think it's part of their identity. And until the NFL bans it, keep fucking doing it.
Like I said, I mean, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate. Obviously, I love it, but it's just also, it amazes me. Like, is this really what we're doing for 3 feet?
Right.
But hey, like, I mean, I know we have Saquon, and obviously he's been the best running back in the NFL this year. But I mean, the tush push has a higher chance of success than Saquon running the ball under center. I mean, that's just a fact. That's just facts.
But my question is always, at what cost? At what point is somebody just going to get straight up fucking squashed?
Well, it hasn't happened yet. They've been doing it for 3 years now. So
knock on wood. I'm just saying. I always like to. We're at that point now where these are the things we can kind of poke at, which is nice.
Yeah. That's very. It's the luxury of a 12-2 team on a 10 game winning streak. This is absolutely insane. And actually, I don't know if they're going to lose again this season. I really don't. I'm not sure.
We have Washington, Dallas, and
the Giants.
Is Giants?
Yep.
Is that? And I think that's the actual order, right? Washington, Dallas, Giants.
Correct.
Yep.
Washington's away, and then the last two are home.
Correct.
Yes. I mean, they might lose one because they're going to rest their players at the end of the season if they can't get the 1 seed.
No, I got too much invested in fantasy championships and the Eagles offense. Do not fucking do that to me.
Well, who do you have? You have Jalen and Saquon?
And AJ.
Okay. Well,
AJ.
I have a feeling they're going to be playing all 3 games with their starters because they want to get that 1 seed really badly. And that last game, I'm pretty sure, the last game of the season, the Lions and the Vikings play against each other, and it's going to probably be flexed. So the Eagles might be forced to play their starters anyway, just because. And also, they probably want to try to get Saquon that record, if possible, even though there'll be an asterisk if it's in 18 games instead of 17, or if it's in 17 games instead of 16. But,
I think he's going to clear it by a long shot. That extra game won't even really be an asterisk. But
well, we'll see. Yeah. I mean, he could. He took a big hit yesterday, only getting 65 yards. But
let's put that in perspective. Okay, he only got 65 yards, and how much of the third did he miss?
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's true. He missed a ton of time, and then there were also like 2 or 3 plays where he took like big losses. He should have had at least like close to 80 yards.
He lost like 10 yards, like 5 and 5 on those shitty fucking losses. But yeah, and listen, I don't love Gainwell. I don't dislike Gainwell, but I used to get so pissed off when they would just be forcing Gainwell in there.
Yeah.
He looked good though in his flashes. He looked good, and I think that's, you know what, save him for the playoffs. He's a good weapon. You just can't be using him all the time, which I know they won't now they have Saquon. But I feel like I don't know if they just fucking hated Miles, but I swear to God, dude, Gainwell would just steal touches from Miles.
Yeah, it was. Last year it was kind of a meme, but this year, every time Kenny's touched the ball, he's gained well.
And that'll do it for this episode.
But he literally saved a couple of drives yesterday. That spin move was sick.
Yeah,
that was sick.
Nasty.
Inspired.
1-on-1, dude. That was fucking nuts.
What an athlete! I mean, that was just awesome. I think. Go ahead.
No, but I mean, I think that's what he can give you when you give him, 5 to 6 touches a game. He's going to give you max effort every time. Whereas, if you just keep fucking, he's not a 3-down back. And I felt like in previous years, they were over relying on him. He's a small dude.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely more of that scat back style, I think. And I mean, he probably is a better like overall receiving running back than Saquon, but he's not as powerful, but he's got quickness and he's got elusiveness. He can definitely be used in situations, in third down situations like that. I mean, playoff Kenny was a thing 2 years ago in the 22 run, and could be coming back this year. If for whatever reason the Eagles, the Eagles can't clinch the one seed, I would not be opposed to just resting Saquon entirely and just having Gainwell do his thing and then have Saquon fresh for the playoffs.
No, let's actually bring back Rashad Penny and see if he can actually run a football.
How about Frank Gore too? While we're at it, get him out of retirement. Oh man. I mean, this. I don't know. I'm still in shock that we're at this point right now. This team. There's been a lot of great things happening with this football team, but I want to see what you guys think is like the most impressive thing that stood out to you with this team so far. Derek, how about you? What's one thing about this team that's really stood out for you the most?
I'd like to not go first, please.
Okay. Chris, how about you?
He's gonna just repeat what I say. No, I'm just kidding. For me, definitely the defense. The defense was a big question mark for me coming into the season. I liked some of the personnel, but there was, obviously Vic Fangio being first time in Philly. Didn't love the first couple showings that we had from a defense standpoint. We've been burned in previous years by the defense in different ways, but I'm actually very happy with we're finally starting to get more pressure. We still, we're getting some turnover or takeaway, should I say, but not quite at the rate that I would like them. But they're there. Definitely more so than last year. I felt like last year, my God, somebody could have literally put a fucking bowling ball on the ground and we would not have been able to pick it up. Like,
bowling balls are hard to pick up.
No, I'm just saying though, they don't move. It's just everything was just not happening in terms of the takeaways last year. So to me, the biggest bright spot, and I think the cornerstone of really our long-term success is the defense.
Oh yeah. I totally agree. That's the biggest difference with this team as opposed to last year's team is the 10-1 team. The 10-1 felt fluky, because the offense wasn't clicking, but also the defense you knew was less than adequate. Like they were bending, not breaking. You knew it was just a matter of time before the dam broke, and it did in a big way. Yeah. And they also had a ton of changes. Like they were like, oh, let's go to Matt Patricia as the defense coordinator. That'll fix all of our problems. And it only got worse somehow.
Yeah, I believe you called it Swiss cheese.
Yes, it was Swiss cheese. And this year they have been, well, the opposite of Swiss cheese, which is any other cheese, I guess. They've just been rock solid, a rock solid block. I am so impressed with this defense. They didn't start off hot. It did not look good early. Those first few games. The Saints, they looked pretty good. but I mean, it took them a while to get going, and I really think the turning point. I mean, they were good before this game, but the turning point for me was the Bengals game for the defense. That was a legit offense, legit quarterback on the road in Cincinnati that they pretty much shut down, and they dominated that game. I know the Bengals were kind of struggling at that point, but they still had Jamar Chase, they still had Joe Burrow. They had a good offense, and they had proven guys, and they shut them down. And ever since then, it's just been off to the races.
Yeah,
I mean, Vic Fangio has been a godsend to this team. I don't want this guy to ever leave Philadelphia. Like, give him a lifetime contract until the day he dies or wants to retire. He ain't leaving. He's going to be the defense coordinator forever, I hope.
I think, there's a couple big reasons why the defense is better aside from Vic Fangio. I think the fact that Slay doesn't have to be like our legitimate one. You know what I mean? Again, nothing against Slay, but Quinyon Mitchell is like, he's going to be the guy. I think there's definitely been a little bit more of an edge from the linebacker play.
Oh
that's
my
been,
God.
but
time.
you could even see it. You know what I mean?
Big time.
And of course, we have CJ Gardner-Johnson. Like, you got a little bit of attitude out there. I like it. Defensive line, formidable. It's just, like I said, we're getting pressure. Might not be getting, all the sacks, but we're at least getting the pressures. And it feels like we've fixed a lot of those, at least those holes, with not just with personnel, but with, scheme and I think just better coaching. I think these guys just want to fucking play defense.
Yeah. The biggest difference is obviously Vic Fangio has kind of added some stability to the defensive coordinator position. But they're just way younger and way more athletic on defense. Night and day difference. I mean, you mentioned Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, this guy is already one of the top corners in football. He's absolutely insane. He's probably going to win defensive rookie of the year. He's the favorite right now, I think, like by odds. Teams just don't even throw to him. He's just locked down. I mean, I've just been so impressed with him. Like, I'm not used to seeing Eagle secondary be so locked down. And
exactly.
And he's been incredible. The Darius Slay, Chris, your boy Darius, big play Slayer, texts me every time he makes a tackle. He's like, he's hurt. He does get hurt every game. There is some sort of injury. He's on the ground at one point every game.
There's some companies are probably paying him because they're making a shit ton of money on an injury fucking, like TV commercial timeout injury shit, because every fucking week he's down for like at least 5 minutes for something. And he's always like smiling too while it's happening. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
But he's had a great season too. Like, credit to him. Like, he might get those injuries, but he's always coming back in. He's been a tough son of a bitch this year.
I just think it's funny. It's like it's like a meme at this point. Like, I'm like, he's good every time. Really, every time he makes a play. If I see him on TV on the screen, I text Ryan like, "Yo, he's hurt."
It's funny. Like, he made that big play against the Panthers, the game-saving play, and then Chris is like, Slay's hurt. But it's funny because, like, the defense really turned the corner once Cooper DeJean started getting starting snaps and playing every down. And I mean, the kid's been great as well. Like, I love Cooper DeJean. I just love all the young players on this defense. I mean, they're just ballers, and they don't give any fucks, and they just want to stand up. They'll stand toe to toe with these proven NFL veterans, these receivers, whomever, running backs, and just go toe to toe with them and just give them all they have. And it's awesome to see.
Yeah, how many weeks was he out for at the beginning of the season?
Well, he didn't start, I think, until the Browns game. I think that was he was out for the first couple of games. He missed a lot of training camp or a lot of the preseason.
So basically the beginning of this win streak.
Yeah. So I think the Browns game was really it's funny. I think the Browns game was the first game he came back and was starting. And I know people were excited when Avonte Maddox got re-signed, but like, I never want to see Avonte Maddox ever again. I mean, I don't miss Avonte Maddox whatsoever. Cooper DeJean is awesome. And all the young guys have been balling out. Jalen Carter is one. It could be defensive player of the year. I mean, he doesn't have the numbers, but I mean, I don't know if there's a tackle in the NFL right now that demands as much attention as he does. I mean, he's getting double teamed, he's getting held, he's getting chop blocked. He's getting everything in the kitchen sink just to not get to the quarterback, but he just keeps fighting, and he's got a lot of attitude too. Like I know.
Oh yeah, dude, he's always trolling the offensive line.
I love that shit. I love when a defensive player, kind of like Brandon Graham, can get in the other players' heads, and he just backs it up too with his play. He's dominant, and he's going to just keep getting better and better. I mean, we're talking like Aaron Donald level of a player, possibly. I think in the next couple of years. I mean, I think he's already as good as Fletcher Cox. I mean, no disrespect to Fletcher Cox, but I mean the amount of game breaking ability that he has, and just the amount of attention he needs from the offensive line is just crazy. It's a huge game changer too. It does suck that the Eagles don't have as many sacks as you might want. I think Sweaty's kind of heating up a little bit. Yeah. But you know who's also been impressive?
Jacoby Dean.
Well, yeah, he's been good too. I like
the other guy that you talked bad about in the preseason
I forget
episode.
to talk bad about Nolan Smith.
Oh yeah, okay.
He has been balling out too. Like, where did this come from? Brandon Graham goes down. Salute Brandon Graham. We'll miss you. Brandon Graham is having a great season too. Like, he was having one of his best seasons. But Nolan Smith has stepped in, and he has like 5.5 sacks. Like, he's been great. I love that. I kind of wrote him off too. It's just like kind of being a bust. But he's completely turned the corner, and if we're getting that at Nolan Smith, like, anything's possible.
Absolutely, but that's what I'm saying is, like, either like it's possible that the coaching is actually developing these guys, or I think also too, like I said, psychologically they have a fucking edge, and we were flat as hell last year.
The only people who were completing tackles last year, Reed Blankenship.
Yep.
The end of the list. That's it. Now Bond is just like superstar.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I have a hard time pointing out like who I'm most impressed with on the defense. I think it has to be Zach Bond though, because we haven't had a linebacker like that in so long.
But he's been around a little bit, and he didn't do shit in New Orleans.
Yeah, no, it's the strangest thing. He's just been rejuvenated here. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Fangio's scheme or what, or I don't know, or he's eating a lot of cheesesteaks. I have no fucking idea. But, I mean, this guy has been balling out the entire season. He's always near the ball. He's always making plays. I haven't seen him miss a tackle this season. I mean, he's everywhere. He's flying all over the field. And I think he's making Nakobe Dean better, too.
Absolutely. Nakobe Dean looks better, like, not just to the eye test, but statistically is better. But the linebackers have been better in coverage too, you know?
Yeah.
Which was a goddamn fucking nightmare for us last year.
Yeah, you actually have linebackers with some speed. They can keep up with these running backs and slot guys out of the backfield. Yeah. It's awesome.
It's been better all around. The offense was never really a question to me. It was always just who's calling the plays. That was going to always be the concern. And I think we've put that to rest. I will say this. If I had to pick a concern moving forward, it's Jake Elliott. And I never really thought I'd say that, because I've never had to think twice about Jake Elliott. If it's even remotely close to humanly possible kicking range, I'm putting Jake Elliott in. But this year, I don't know, man. It makes you question things, and it's almost like I used to get so pissed off when we would go for 2 all the time. And now I'm like, we don't have that safety blanket either to just keep kicking these field goals. I mean, maybe we do. Maybe he snaps out of it. He looked okay yesterday.
Right. The only thing I can say about that is I think it was the Ravens game where he kind of fell apart. Right.
Yeah.
But I think that day was like crazy windy, wasn't it?
I don't know. Actually.
That's what I remember, at least. And didn't Justin Tucker also just like shank a few that day?
But he's also having a shitty year too.
Justin Tucker's had a really bad year. He looks. I don't know if he's cooked, but he just looks like
it does not look good for him.
He's got to be hurt somewhere. He's got to be hurt.
Yeah, but I feel like barring that game, he's actually been okay. I just feel like it's one of those things where I notice the blemish so much more because there isn't anything else around it.
Yeah. The kickers, you're always going to notice their mistakes. But I think Jake's been awful from 50 plus this year.
He hasn't made I don't think he's made a single one.
Yikes.
I think he's it's like 0 for 10 or something. I don't know if the exact numbers, but it's getting up there like 0 for 10.
Yeah, and that's where he is usually money. Like that's a guy that can win you a game. I'm trying to look up his specifically. So he so far he's 0 for 5, 50 plus.
No, I thought it was more than that, but okay.
No, 0 for 5.
He hasn't made one yet though.
No, yeah, exactly. He's tried 5 this year. He's 6 for 7 from 40 to 50, 80. Yeah, so he's not been like egregiously bad. It's just like you haven't been able to rely on him from 50 plus at all. And that's kind of where he's made his money, especially big kicks. And come playoffs, those are the kind of kicks you got to be able to knock down. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, they're gonna need him to. You can't just be going for you can't be going for him fourth down if it's like fourth and 4, 4th and 5 plus from the opponent's 40. Like you gotta get your kicker out there. You got to make a long field goal. He can do it. I don't know. It's got to be all mental, or he's hurt. But I feel like at this point, it's probably a little bit of mental, just kind of a mental block right now. And it could just be one of the situations where he just makes one big kick and he's back on track.
Sure.
I'm not one to. He's done way too much in his career, and this has been like by far his worst season since he signed with the Eagles. I'm still willing to give him shots, from 50 plus, unless it's given the situation of the game. I still trust him from 30. You said he's 6 of 7 from between 40 and 50. I still trust him within those ranges. But yeah, the 50 plus have been, and they haven't really even been close when he's tried them either. They've been really off.
Dude, There was like this TikTok I saw of a girl that was in the stands, like behind the end zone, and she got hit in the head with Jake Elliott's missed kick. And if you watch the video, if you watch the video where she was sitting, that motherfucking ball was like 40 rows wide. Like, I don't even know how she could have possibly gotten hit from where she was. So, yeah, they've been bad. But here's the thing. I think you still, for the money you're paying him and what he's done, I don't think you can shy away from those situations. Like if it makes sense to kick it, I think you got to let him fucking kick it, even if it is in that 50 plus range.
Yeah.
Because he's done it so many, years. I don't know.
He's made a lot of big kicks in his career. It could be, and it also could be like a high stakes playoff situation. Maybe he steps up to the moment and locks in and makes a big kick. I don't know. I mean, Sirianni, the coaching staff, they're talking to him. They know what his mindset's like. I mean,
sure.
I'm sure they're having conversations and everything, and I'm sure Nick's saying like, we're not gonna, we still trust you. We're not gonna get away from you. But also, Nick is the guy that goes for it on fourth down a lot. Not so much recently, but I mean, more times than not, if it's fourth and short, he's going to go for it. He's not going to give Elliott that chance to really kick a field goal because that's just the type of coach he is. So that is definitely by far my biggest concern. I'm not even, that if I had to choose one thing that I'm most concerned about going into the playoffs, it's the consistency in the kicking game.
Yeah, which is weird because, like I said at the beginning of the season, that wouldn't even been like in my top 20 concerns. Yeah. So, and it's actually the number one concern. So maybe that's a good thing in a way, right? That all the things that I thought were going to be issues aren't. But the kicking, I just my issue with the kicking is that it's like it alters the way in which you play. You call plays. It changes the way you handle certain situations, and I think it's like. I hate when you have to get away from what would make the most sense because, there's a question mark at kicking. And what I'm a little concerned about is, there have been a lot of kickers that have had success and then like the fall off can be pretty fucking sharp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's washed, but I'm just,
I don't think he's washed. Just an off year. I think he'll be back ready to go for either, hopefully this season when they need him or going in the next season at least. But going back to Derek, did you have something? Did you have an aspect of this team that you were most impressed with so far?
Nope. Sorry. How about you?
Okay. Well, I mean, the defense by far is what I'm most impressed with. But I mean, I guess another.
Whoa. So you thought I was going to say the same thing Chris said.
Now
Like,
you're
you said the
repeating
same
me.
thing
Well,
Chris
I'm just
said.
being honest. Like, how could you not look at the defense and not be impressed by what they've done, considering where they were last year? But I think but the sexier pick is Saquon Barkley. I mean, we knew this guy was good. I don't think any of us were prepared for how good he's been in an Eagles uniform. Like, he's been amazing. Like, one of the best athletes I've ever seen play in Philadelphia is Saquon Barkley. Like, this guy is just a game changer. He just is electric with the ball. You know, he can break a 50-yard run at any moment, and it's just such a weapon to have. And I just can't believe that the Eagles have him, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jalen as a quarterback. Like, what a team, and what a assembly of players that you have. I mean, it's just, yeah, Saquon's been outrageous. I could not have predicted that he would be this good.
Agreed. I don't think I'm surprised. But yeah, it definitely exceeded my expectations by a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's changed the narrative of like, oh, a running back, you know, you don't need a good running back to win in the NFL. Saquon Barkley has single-handedly proven that like a good running back it takes your team over the top. It really can.
Well, listen, I'm obviously highly biased as an Eagles fan, but this makes a case for MVP to not be a quarterback. If you're looking at what MVP means, right? A player that is the most important to their team, not necessarily the best in the league at something, but means the most to their team. We're nowhere near where we are now without Saquon, in my opinion.
No,
absolutely.
Not even close, especially early on in the season. Definitely not.
So, you know, for what that's worth, I think we might finally see a year where the MVP is not a quarterback, and I would fucking love that.
Yeah, I just unfortunately think Josh Allen's been too good, especially yesterday. I mean, that shootout with Detroit, and he's been crazy this year. I just don't think he's gonna be able to take that from Josh Allen's hands, unless, you know, Josh Allen has a couple of duds going down the road here, and Saquon is able to pass Dickerson and maybe has a couple of crazy rushing games. You know, the odds are definitely stacked against him right now. But if it's, I think he's at least the second favorite in my opinion.
I think he legit wins MVP.
He could. He very well could. Hey, he very well could. I just think that, you know, I don't know. Josh Allen has had a pretty incredible year too, and he plays quarterback.
It's the Bills, bro.
What does that mean?
The Bills will Bills, man. They'll put out fucking numbers, and then they won't do shit.
Well, and then they also got to consider he's doing this without Stephon Diggs. They got Amari Cooper, but Amari Cooper's like a shell of himself. You know,
Amari Cooper, he's on my fantasy team. He had no catches yesterday.
Yeah, he's on my team too. I just haven't started him in weeks. I have Khalil Shakir though. He's been a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's kind of like I don't know. I don't want to compare him to another quarterback, but he has that ability to like make irrelevant receivers like serviceable. But they just haven't like. I don't know why that organization hasn't just fucking landed, you know, some big ass receivers for him.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure that'll be a target in the draft this year. We'll see. I don't know, but kind of like Mahomes too. Like Mahomes doesn't really have. They had the trade for DeAndre Hopkins, and you know he's been pretty good for them. But you know DeAndre Hopkins is also in his mid-30s, like 30,
yeah, he's
33.
like 47.
That's pretty impressive. He's 47. All right, so we had. Is there any other concerns about this team besides the kicking? The kicking is by far our biggest concern. Did Jalen's game yesterday put to bed any worries you had with him?
I don't have worries with him. I think he needs to trust himself and just fucking play football. And I think his biggest issue is I think he just like gets in his head sometimes. I honestly do. And that's why I think some weeks you're like, holy shit, this dude's incredible. And then the next week you're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? It is such a roller coaster, but him like Sirianni, his numbers do not lie.
Yeah, no,
his stats are good.
Jalen's his quarterback rating is always good. His touchdown to interception ratio. I mean, I know you're including the push-tush touchdowns, but his total touchdowns are, you know, he's always up there with the best in the league. And
Yeah. He's not going to he's not going to throw for 350 yards, but
he's not going to he's not going to be like he's not going to be a 5,000 yard passer. Even though I think he could be if that was the offense that they wanted to run. With the weapons
that's the offense I want. That's the offense I want to see.
I think it's the offense everybody wants to see, but
I think for me, the only thing with him is, I mean, I understand these teams have PR people, right? And I understand that they only want certain things to get out to the public. But I mean, we saw it this week. He's got like a thing on his finger. We saw it last year with the knee injury.
And he actually broke his finger last year.
Yeah,
did he?
Remember when they zoomed in on it? It was like a Z.
it was all.
Oh boy! But it's one of those things where like it kind of paints a picture that he's like quietly putting the work in behind the scenes, but we want to know what's up with the people on the team that we like.
The Eagles do that a lot, though. That's like
not as bad as the Sixers. The Sixers are the worst. Are the most egregious offenders of this, concealing injuries and whatnot, not being transparent with their fans. But
which I never understood that. Derek's right, and we should know what's going on. But I think the problem is you're talking about disclosing injuries for a guy that's still playing. You know what I mean? Versus disclosing an injury for somebody that's like out for like weeks. You know what I mean? It's like, so there is I guess there's an advantage there to knowing that. But like the biggest one that I go back to in recent years is I can't remember how many years ago it was, maybe 21. Ryan, you'll remember this one for sure, but Deshaun Jackson.
Oh my God.
Basically out for the season, but was every week to week with this abdominal injury.
Like
for
what
the whole
happened?
Season. That
was with the was Jalen the quarterback then, or was that Wentz? That was Wentz.
I think it was like kind of both.
Okay. Oh yeah, that was they did. It was like 2019 season, I think then, or 2020 or 2019.
He's got an abdominal injury, but really it was a fucking hernia.
Yeah.
And they opted for surgery at like week 14.
So weird. And the whole
2019.
Yeah. The whole McCaffrey thing this year too with the Niners, like what a disaster. And sunk a lot of people's fantasy teams this year too. It cost people some money. It's just I don't understand why teams don't want to be transparent. At the end of the day, it comes down to money, I guess, and ticket sales, and at least that for the Sixers, that's why I think they're like always late to rule Embiid out for games, like because they want people to buy tickets and go and still go to the arena, which is fucked up. But I think it's a business, and that's how businesses work, unfortunately.
I think too, it's also the other team has to game plan, assuming that this guy's going to be in, and then when he's not, it's like maybe it switches things up on him. But I'm curious to see what's going on with Jalen. I mean, he's not going to tell you because he's just going to say basically like he just speaks in like quotes, like movie quotes.
That is very true. A lot of Jalenisms.
Yeah, like all right, bro.
At least the broken finger's on his left hand, so it doesn't affect his throwing really.
Is it broken?
He said it affected him yesterday, but I didn't see that. He looked fine. He looked great.
Okay, it says broken left ring finger, so this is confirmed.
Yeah. Don't know how broken it is.
Broken enough,
I guess.
He said, okay, this is his quote. This is weird. It says, "It is broken and it did impact my play."
It's pretty straightforward.
Maybe it made him play better.
Wanted.
Maybe it made him more accurate. I don't know.
So what's the fucking? How did he injure? Oh my God.
We'll never know.
Could have been some at-home shenanigans with the new wife. I don't know. Who knows?
Jesus Christ.
What? All right. That aside, do we have any other points we want to make? What?
No.
There is one thing I am concerned. I am a little concerned about. It's always like in the back of my mind. That's just injuries. Just on the topic of Jalen's finger, we had Landon Dickerson go out yesterday with an undisclosed injury. I'm not sure if I haven't been on the socials today, so I'm not sure if there's any updates on him. But he came out. He didn't come back in, which is worrisome because Landon's a tough son of a bitch, and if it had to have been something relatively serious if he didn't go back into that game, especially when it was still like kind of close. So I'm worried about that a little bit. And there were, like Blankenship is still out. I mean, there's always that potential for injury, and I want our guys to stay healthy. Just don't get hurt.
Did Becton get rolled up on?
Yeah, I think Becton got rolled up on. Yeah, he came back in.
Lane got rolled up on.
Speaking of that,
Lane came back in too.
Dude, AJ almost broke his fucking ankle. I thought they were doing something with these hip drops.
Yeah, they're supposed to call it a penalty. I think it's supposed to be a penalty.
They just don't.
On the broadcast, they said they've been dealing it more with fines.
Yeah, you're right.
It'll probably be more penalized next year.
I hope so.
Who knows?
That shit looks nasty.
Yeah, but I just want these guys, and that's the risk. You're risk by playing these guys the rest of the year. You're fighting for the 1 seed, but you're also risking injury. And I'm just hoping that everyone stays upright and healthy. That's really the only thing for me that can like keep this team from going as far as they can go.
Right.
Is health.
But unfortunately, I've never been a fan of it. I don't think you can play or make decisions based on that, unless it's obviously totally egregious, like a completely useless game. You know what I mean? Or you're blowing somebody out. But I just think if the players are healthy, whatever healthy it may be at this point in the season, I think you got to play people as long as it matters.
Yeah, if the games matter and you want to get seeding, then you have to play them.
Yeah,
you don't have a choice.
And that's where I'm at, and I don't think you can fault a coach, one way or other. Hindsight's always 20/20. I think I remember, wasn't it Carolina a while back? Remember in the Cam Newton years, weren't they going for like a perfect season at one point?
Yeah.
And there was like all this shit about like Ron Rivera was like, I don't know, is he going to play them? Is he not going to play them? Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, just stay healthy.
Yeah.
How far are we going? We going to the Super Bowl, baby?
Bro, you don't even fucking ask me that.
All right. Well, I think this team's going at least to the championship game, and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, we will see what happens.
In my opinion, if it's Super Bowl or bust for me, I won't be happy with anything. But no, I'm being serious. I'm not being like, wishful thinking, like bullshit right now. Like I'm legit. We've shown we can get there. We can play amazing in the Super Bowl. We had a tight loss to Kansas City. Last year fell apart. This team is better than the Super Bowl team.
Yeah, they have the best roster in the NFL, I think, by far. And the defense.
Yeah, we need to prove
difference.
that they can do something with it.
Exactly. We are absolutely like the Los Angeles Dodgers, in my opinion. It is championship or bust. I'm being honest.
Okay. With the defense is this young, I don't know if you can necessarily do that, but I think that with the way they're playing, that they are set up to win this year. I think they are.
So that's what y'all wanted to see, huh? Yeah, well, that is our Birds episode. So you can fly over to Instagram. We're at 5 o'clock sweats there. We're on X, also at 5 o'clock sweats. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Anything else?
Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. And as always, stay sweaty.
Stay sweaty.
We might get into it. We might not. We'll see.
Maybe. Troy and Abed in the morning.
Troy and Abed in the morning.